You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be giving my honest review of the brand new college football video game, College Football 26. I will start off with the things I like, then go on to list the things I don't like. It will be a no BS review, probably the only honest review you'll get. I won't glaze EA, in fact, I will be criticizing a lot about this game, but I also won't be a complete hater and just be a Debbie Downer like Ryan Moody is. Man, that guy's annoying. Alright, so here we go. First, the positives. Okay, to start with, the transfer portal is so much better. In last year's game, hardly anyone transferred ever. Now the portal is filled with 4 and 5-star talent. I've heard people say that it doesn't matter because you can't recruit them due to deal breakers, but I play as BYU and I've been able to get a few. Realistic immersion is a big deal to me, and almost everyone transferring at some point is what actually happens in real life. The second big positive is the game physics. I've seen people online complain about the Frostbite engine, but I don't get what you guys are talking about. I think it's great. Physics are realistic with players moving like real players do. You can bounce off a player if they don't wrap you up and bring you down. Jump balls are realistic and not just scripted animation. And if you get hit while you throw a pass, it's wobbly, which is realistic. Here, check out this footage I managed to get. Look at the way the ball moves. This is realistic. I don't understand what more these people want out of the physics. This is realistic. So the next one is the announcers. And to be honest, this one isn't entirely a plus for me. And I'll explain why. The announcers are good, but sometimes they repeat stuff or say off-the-wall stuff. They do reference past games, which is cool, even games that happened last year. Like I said, I play as BYU, and in my game against Utah, the announcers started talking about the controversial defensive holding call in last year's game between the two. I wish they'd banter more. In MLB The Show, the announcers riff off of each other and make jokes and observe what's going on the field and actually make intelligent comments about it. But I think as AI technology and voice cloning gets better, the announcers will feel more authentic in future games. The next positive, for the first time ever, real coaches are in the game, and the coaching carousel is robust too. Coaches and coordinators often take new jobs. Now, there are a few exceptions. No Bill Belichick, no Deion Sanders, no Mario Cristobal, and I'm sure there's a few others that I'm missing. I mean, if they don't want to be in the game, you can't exactly make them, but realism is pretty much the main thing I want in a sports game, so it's kind of a bummer from that standpoint, but it's cool that we got most of the real coaches. The next big positive, they added dynamic lighting. So for those who don't know, basically what that means is the sunlight will be different depending on if it's a morning game or afternoon game, and if you start a game in the late afternoon and it's like November, the sun's going to set before the end of the game. Now, a lot of people were saying we shouldn't give EA credit for this because they had it in the older games, and MLB The Show has had it for years. But my opinion on that is we gotta be positive where we can. We said we wanted it and EA listened. That's a W. I love it because it adds to the realism. They finally added a college football history tab. Now, once again, I'm pretty sure this was a feature the old games have, but we gotta be positive here. I no longer have to write down every previous champion and Heisman winner from my dynasty. And yes, I did that. And speaking of the Heisman Trophy, the Heisman is no longer the only real award in the game, which is awesome. They no longer have generic awards like Best Running Back Award. It's the Doak Walker. It's no longer Coach of the Year, it's the Bear Bryant Award. And all the real awards are there as far as I can tell. Alright, this is a quick one, but they actually have real sponsors, which adds to the realism. Plus, it puts more money in EA's pocket, which is great because they can theoretically use that money to improve future games. The Stadium Pulse is sponsored by Lowe's, and the halftime stats and the stats between each quarter are sponsored by Discover. So getting extra money from them is great. Now, if only there could be more sponsors. Obviously not to an excessive degree, but a few more would be great because more money hopefully means a better product. But it is EA we're talking about, so maybe I'm just being too optimistic. Next positive. I have to give major props to the dev team for listening to us and adding more songs and real-life intros. Virginia Tech has Enter Sandman playing as they run out of the tunnel, and Michigan plays Mr. Brightside between the third and fourth quarters. They listened to us and added it. Like I said, realism is the number one thing on my list, and it's the number one thing on most people's list too. And wouldn't you know it, the top comment on the Michigan video echoes that sentiment. The next one, recruiting is a lot easier and more realistic. I've heard a lot of people say recruiting is harder because of deal breakers, but to me it's realistic. I obviously play as BYU, and even still I can get 4 stars fairly consistently. I have only managed to snag a few 5 stars, but that's to be expected while playing with BYU. 5 stars usually end up at Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, etc. The next positive, QBs almost always win the Heisman. The reason this is a positive from my perspective is because it's realistic and adds to the immersion. Obviously, every once in a while a non-QB wins the Heisman, like Derrick Henry or Devonta Smith or Travis Hunter just last year. But for the last 20 or so years, it's been mostly quarterbacks, and the game reflects that. The next positive, you can force wins. So basically there's this feature if you go to the scores and schedule tab where you can click on a game that hasn't happened yet and you can force one team to win over the other. The reason why I like this is because it adds to the realism. I'm sorry, but FCS East is not going to beat Georgia. It's just not realistic. I force wins for realistic outcomes. The next one is something that I haven't seen any other creator mention, and that is dirty jerseys. As the game goes on, the jerseys get progressively more dirty, which is an awesome feature. I haven't seen any other creator mention it. Not Soft Drink TV, not Bordeaux, not Eric Rayweather, none of them. And I think it's awesome. It's an awesome feature. And if it's a snowy or rainy game, the jerseys also have wet spots on them. I love that little detail, and like I said, no one mentions it. I think they took a page out of MLB The Show's book because MLB The Show has had dirty jerseys for years now. When you slide into a base, your jersey gets dirty, or if you dive for a line drive hit, your jersey also gets dirty. And I think that's something that is great. I think it adds to the realism. Now, the very last positive before I move on to the negatives. Cheerleaders actually look normal now. Last year, the cheerleaders looked like mutants from The Hills Have Eyes. This year, they look normal. Not hot, but normal. It's a step in the right direction. Maybe next year, we'll get hot cheerleaders with big tits. Now, I think with the advancement of AI and AI-generated imagery, I think they can do a lot with cheerleaders. Make them hot and also add less dude cheerleaders, alright? I'm all for representation, equal representation, but come on, I want to see ladies. And now for the negatives. And yes, I do have a lot to criticize, and I mean a lot. I'm not an EA simp. I think the game is overall good, but I do have a lot I want to see fixed as a consumer, so let's get into it. The first one, no FCS teams. I don't know why it's so hard to add FCS teams back into the game. They were in the old games. Someone please explain to me why they can't add them again. They just don't want to have to spend money to pay for more likenesses. MLB The Show has MLB, the 2 AAA leagues, and I think 3 AA leagues. That's 6 leagues. Meanwhile, College Football 26 can't shell out a few extra dollars for FCS teams and their likenesses. If there was FCS teams in the game, it would make the transfer portal so much better. So why don't they just add FCS teams? They can do a tiered system where FBS players get paid more and FCS players get paid a little bit less. It makes sense to me. I mean, the game is selling like crazy. They can afford it. They're just selfish. Okay, on to my next complaint. They should have different scoreboards. Yet another thing they could learn from MLB The Show. The show has regional scoreboards and national ones. Why can't College Football 26 do this? It's not that hard. NCAA Basketball 10 had a CBS scoreboard and an ESPN scoreboard. Why can't College Football 26 pay for the ESPN one and the Fox Sports one? Both are super cool. Or maybe they just don't even have to pay for it. They just strike a deal with the 2 networks to appear in the game as a free form of advertising. But even if they do have to pay for the scoreboards from both networks, it certainly can't be too much considering NCAA Basketball 10 did it, and they didn't sell nearly as many copies as the college football games, or hell, even the NBA 2K games. The next complaint, there are way too many injuries, and if you get injured with under a minute left in the game, there should be a 10-second runoff, but instead, a player on the opposite team just gets injured when you have the lead, and it serves as a free timeout, which is really annoying, especially when it's online play. But I swear, 1 out of every 3 plays there's an injury. I literally had to turn them off because it got so annoying, which takes away from the realism, which I hate. My next criticism is that studio updates suck. Studio updates don't even really happen. They briefly mention other scores, but you don't get a break from the action like you did in NCAA 14. NCAA 14 would also show you stats from other games and stuff as well. and it was awesome, but they don't do that in this new game. My next criticism kind of goes along with the last one, but the halftime reports suck. At halftime, they just show you stats from your own game and not from other games happening around the country, or games from teams in your conference even. The old games had full-on halftime presentations, or at least the NFL 2K ones did. And I understand 2K is a completely separate development studio, but come on, how hard can it be to add halftime presentations? The next thing that I hate is that the ranking system is messed up. The top 25 rankings are completely jacked up. You'll consistently have teams with identical records that are a few spots apart in the top 25, and the team that loses in the head-to-head matchup is still ranked higher the next week. And this happens consistently, and this really becomes a problem when it comes to the playoffs. You'll literally have a team that won the head-to-head matchup with an identical record but still have a worse seed than the team that lost the head-to-head matchup with an identical record. Like, it's such a bummer because I like things to be realistic. My next complaint, you still can't import draft classes. I literally have to create each one of my draft classes from scratch. I write them all down in a notebook and put them one by one into Madden. This process takes forever, but on the bright side, at least it makes my dynasties last a lot longer. The next problem I have is you can't edit player skin tones. 7 years into the dynasty and every cornerback and running back is white and every punter and kicker is black. It's just not realistic. Why can't we edit the skin tone of the fake players? Obviously, I understand why we can't do it with the real players, but why not the fake auto-generated ones? My next issue kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, and that is that you can't create recruits. This was a feature available in NCAA 14, but for some reason EA won't allow us to make our own recruits. And some of the names of the existing recruits are awful. My next problem is the glitches. They are minor glitches, but they are annoying to see. Like players going through stuff, like tents on the sideline, or they go through the walls on the sideline. It's not a huge deal, but it's just kind of annoying. The next one, you can't expand the playoffs. The playoffs can't be expanded, which is annoying because we all know within the next 10 years the playoffs will be expanded again. And in a 30-year dynasty, which is the max you can do, there's probably going to be multiple expansions. We will probably eventually be at the point where it's a 32-team tournament and the season extends into mid-February. Obviously that won't happen for several decades, but still, the game should allow you to expand the playoffs. My next one is probably the one that was the biggest letdown. Road to Glory sucks and Team Builder website also sucks. Everyone was super excited when Road to Glory added high school again, but number one, you can't play full games, only moments. And number two, you can't customize your high school and your opponents like you could in NCAA 14. And they said you could import your high school via Team Builder, but the Team Builder website sucks. It keeps crashing and reloading, and every time it does, it erases whatever you just did. Not to mention, the logos you upload have to be PNG, which means background removed, which is difficult to find, especially if you're looking for your actual high school's logo. It's overall just a mess and needs to be like it was in NCAA 14. Let us customize high schools and create colleges in the game. Throw the Team Builder website in the trash can. My next problem is once again with Dynasty mode, and you'll notice that most of my complaints revolve around Dynasty because that's the mode I play the most. But in Dynasty, somehow teams that suck get into bowl games. In one of my dynasties, I had a 3-9 Virginia Tech team make the Citrus Bowl, which is actually a decently prestigious bowl. Look, if there's not enough 6-6 teams to go around, surely you can find a 5-7 team. I understand that the ACC probably has a tie-in with the Citrus Bowl, but come on, a 3-9 team, really? My next complaint, fans should leave early if there is a blowout. This is a feature I'd like to see. It adds to the realism. I could be wrong about this, or maybe I'm misremembering, but I swear one of the older NHL games had this feature, like somewhere in the NHL 07 to NHL 13 range. My next complaint is for fans that travel well like BYU, there needs to be more fans at away games. I remember watching a game a few years ago, it was Rice versus Stanford in Australia, and there was BYU fans in the stands. BYU fans went across the globe to watch a game that BYU wasn't even playing in. They literally call UNLV BYU South because when BYU plays UNLV in Las Vegas, there's actually more BYU fans there than UNLV fans. And there's other teams that travel well too. Not as well as BYU, of course, but they do travel well. Why can't the game add more fans at away games for those teams that travel well? It really just seems simple. My next complaint, the weather makes no sense sometimes. I play as BYU and I had a home game in late November that was 76 degrees. That would never happen unless we're talking about BYU Hawaii, which doesn't even have a football team. The old games used to partner with the Weather Channel to get accurate weather. Why can't the new games partner with the Weather Channel and take the average temperature for that particular day on the calendar and come up with a realistic weather forecast for that game? Or have the option to pick the weather you want, like in MLB The Show. I know I keep mentioning MLB The Show, but it's for good reason. No one complains about the show because it's such a well-made, great game. Hire some of their devs, EA. I beg of you. My next complaint. Passing is kind of funky. There's a crazy amount of passes that get batted down at the line of scrimmage. Every once in a while is fine by me, but it happens multiple times every drive. Same with overthrown passes. Even when there's no pressure in the pocket, your QB launches it 20 yards past the receiver. Make it make sense. My next complaint. The trophy room sucks. I'm just gonna say it. It sucks. None of my trophies or bowl wins even show up in the trophy room. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is, but anytime I win a conference championship or a bowl game, the trophy's not there. It's just empty. I also wish it was more interactive, like an actual room, but that's probably just wishful thinking. Last but not least, the dynasty length should be 60 years like it was in the old games, instead of 30 years like it is currently. I think 30 to 35 years in, your original coach should retire and force you to play as a new coach, whether that be a created coach or an existing coach that you can hire, because coaching 60 damn years is pretty unrealistic unless your name is Joe Paterno, who coached 61 years, if you include his time as an assistant coach. But that's rare, so 35 years with one coach should be the absolute max, but the dynasty length should be 60 years at least. Anyway guys, that's my honest review. If you disagreed with any of it, tell me why in the comments. If you liked this video, leave a like, and if you hated it, leave a dislike. But either way, comment for the algorithm. Peace out.
I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right, it feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right. It feels right, it feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right.